For 40 years, the money showed up on its own. Every month, like clockwork, a paycheck landed and you paid the bills without thinking about it. Then you retire, and one morning there is no paycheck. There is a pile. A big number sitting in an account, and the whole job of turning it into steady monthly income is suddenly yours. That is the real fear hiding behind the words, "Will my money last?" It is not really about the size of the pile. It is about whether the money will show up every month, the way a job used to make it show up. So today, we do not guess. We build you a paycheck out of 6 layers, stacking the guaranteed ones under your essential bills first, so the money arrives every month again. On purpose this time. Here is the shift nobody warns you about. Your working life trained you to think in monthly income. Your retirement accounts are built to show you a lump sum. So you open your statement, you see one big number, and your brain has no idea what that means for a Tuesday when the electric bill is due. A pile does not tell you what you can spend. It just sits there and makes you nervous. The fix is to stop looking at the pile and start building the paycheck. And a paycheck, it turns out, is not one thing. It is a stack of layers, some rock solid and some flexible, that add up to a single number that lands in your checking account each month. Once you see the layers, the fear gets a lot smaller. Let us build them from the bottom up. Picture your monthly income as a stack, like a layer cake. The bottom layers are guaranteed, money that shows up no matter what the stock market does. The top layers are flexible, money you can turn up in a good year and turn down in a bad one. The whole strategy is one sentence. Your guaranteed layers should cover your essential bills, and your flexible layers pay for everything else. Essentials are the things that do not stop: housing, food, utilities, insurance, healthcare. If a steady guaranteed floor covers those, then a bad year in the market changes your vacation, not your survival. That is the difference between a retirement that feels calm and one that feels like a knuckle-white ride. There are 6 layers in the stack. We will build each one, then put real numbers on it. Layer 1 is Social Security, and for almost everyone, it is the foundation the whole stack sits on. Here is why it is such good material to build on. It is guaranteed by the federal government, it adjusts up with inflation every year, and it lasts as long as you live. There is no other check in your life that does all 3 of those things at once. For a lot of retirees, Social Security covers a large share of the essentials all by itself. That is the base layer poured and set, and you have some control over how big it is. We did a whole episode on this. The later you claim, between 62 and 70, the bigger this floor is, permanently. So before anything else, go to essa.gov and find your own number at your full retirement age. Every figure today is just a stand-in for yours. Layer 2 is a second guaranteed floor, and this one depends on your situation. If you are one of the people who still has a traditional pension, from a government job, a union, a big employer, then congratulations, you are holding a rare and valuable thing. A pension is a second monthly check for life, and it stacks right on top of Social Security. Add the two together and your guaranteed floor might already cover most of your bills. If you do not have a pension, and most people retiring today do not, you can still build a piece of this layer yourself. You can take a slice of your savings and buy a simple immediate annuity, which is really just a private pension. You hand over a lump sum, an insurance company sends you a fixed check for life. That is one option, not a recommendation, and annuities come in good and bad flavors. But the idea is powerful. You can manufacture a floor. Now do the most important arithmetic in this whole video. Add up your guaranteed layers, 1 and 2, and write down that monthly number. Then add up your essential bills, the ones that do not stop, and write down that number. Put them side by side. There are only 2 cases. If your guaranteed floor already covers your essentials, take a breath, because you are in a genuinely strong position. The market can crash and your lights stay on. Everything else in this video is about funding the fun, not the survival. If there is a gap, and for many people there is, that gap is the single most useful number you own. It tells you exactly how much monthly income the rest of the layers have to produce. Not a vague worry about the whole pile. One specific number. That is what the flexible layers are for. Layer 3 is the big one, your savings turned into a monthly withdrawal. This is your 401k, your IRA, your brokerage account, all the money you spent decades building. The job now is to convert that pile into a paycheck without draining it too fast. The classic starting guide is to plan on drawing around 4% of the balance in the first year, then adjusting for inflation. On a $500,000 balance, that is about $20,000 a year, or roughly $1,700 a month. Please hear the words starting guide. 4% is a planning anchor, not a promise, and the right number for you depends on your age, your mix, and how flexible you can be. But it turns an intimidating pile into a monthly figure you can actually stack. This layer is flexible on purpose. In a bad market year, you can trim it. That flexibility is exactly why it sits above the floor, not under the essentials. Layer 4 is optional, temporary, and quietly one of the most powerful of all. A little bit of earned income in the early years of retirement. I am not talking about grinding at a job you hate. I am talking about a part-time thing, a consulting week here and there, a hobby that pays. Even a small amount does two big jobs at once. First, every dollar you earn is a dollar you do not have to pull from layer 3, while your portfolio is youngest and most fragile. Second, earning a little can let you delay Social Security, which permanently raises layer 1, your floor. So this layer is a bridge. You use it hardest in the first few years, then you let it fade as the guaranteed layers grow into their full size. It is not forever. It is a lever you pull early when it does the most good. Layer 5 is not really income. It is the thing that protects the income. Your cash buffer. Here is the danger it defends against. If the whole market drops the same year you retire, and you are forced to sell your investments at the bottom just to pay the bills, that damage does not heal. Selling low in the first years is the single biggest way retirements go wrong. It even has a name, sequence of returns risk. The buffer is the answer, and it is simple. You keep 1 to 2 years of expenses in plain cash or short-term bonds, sitting quietly on the side. When markets drop, you spend from the buffer instead of selling stocks. You give your portfolio time to recover, then you refill the buffer in good years. It feels lazy to hold that much cash. It is not lazy. It is the seatbelt that lets layer 3 do its job. Layer 6 is the reserve, the money you do not count on for the monthly paycheck, but keep in your back pocket for real life. Two pieces live here. The first is your health savings account, if you have one. An HSA is the most tax-friendly money you own for medical costs, going in, growing, and coming out all tax-free when used for healthcare. In retirement, where healthcare is one of the biggest wildcards, that is a targeted reserve worth protecting. The second piece is your home equity. For most retirees, the house is the largest asset they have, and it can be a backstop. You might downsize and free up cash, or set up a line of credit against the home for emergencies. These come with real trade-offs and are not the first place you reach. That is the point. Layer 6 is the reserve you tap last, on purpose, so the layers above it can stay steady. So now you have all 6. Let us stack them the right way, because the order is the whole trick. Start at the bottom. Layers 1 and 2, Social Security and any pension or annuity, are your guaranteed floor. You aim that floor at the essential bills, the ones that never stop. Then, if there is a gap between that floor and the essentials, you fill it first from layer 3, the portfolio, drawing steadily. Once the essentials are fully covered, everything above that, the travel, the grandkids, the fun, comes from the flexible top of layer 3 and any part-time work in layer 4. Layer 5, the cash buffer, sits alongside the whole stack, ready to absorb a bad market so you never have to sell low. And layer 6 waits quietly in reserve. Essentials on the guaranteed floor. Wants on the flexible layers. That is the entire design. Let us make it concrete with round, made-up numbers. Meet one retiree. Her Social Security is $2,000 a month. She has a small pension worth $500. So her guaranteed floor, layers 1 and 2, is $2,500 a month, and it never depends on the market. Her essential bills come to $2,800. So she has a gap of $300 a month between her floor and her essentials. That is her real number. She fills that $300 from her portfolio, layer 3, and now every essential bill she has is covered by guaranteed income plus a steady, modest draw. Her wants, the travel, and the gifts, another $800 a month, come from the flexible top of her portfolio and a little part-time income. Her cash buffer sits beside it all. Notice what happened. A scary pile became a calm, specific plan. If that felt like a lot, here is the build order in 5 plain steps, the sequence to actually do it. 1. Add up your guaranteed floor, Social Security plus any pension or annuity. 2. Add up your essential bills. 3. Find the gap between them, because that gap is the exact job for your portfolio. 4. Set your portfolio to cover that gap first with a steady, conservative draw, and only then fund your wants from what is left on top. 5. Carve out 1 to 2 years of expenses as your cash buffer before you do anything fancy, and leave the home and the HSA as reserves. Do it in that order, and something nice happens. The decisions get smaller and clearer. You are no longer staring at one huge pile asking, will it last? You are filling in a handful of specific lines that add up to a paycheck. A few moves lift the entire stack at once, and they are worth knowing. The first is delaying Social Security. Every year you wait, up to 70, permanently raises layer 1, your floor, which is the layer doing the most important job. A bigger floor means less pressure on everything above it. The second is the withdrawal order. Which account you pull from first, taxable, then tax deferred, then Roth, quietly changes how much of layer 3 survives the tax bite. We did a whole episode on that too, and it can be worth 5 figures over a retirement. The third is simply keeping that cash buffer full, so a bad market never forces a bad sale. None of these are exotic. They are the difference between a stack that holds steady for 30 years and one that wobbles every time the news gets loud. Here is the mistake, and it is an easy one to make. Paying your essential bills straight out of a volatile portfolio with no guaranteed floor underneath and no buffer beside it. When you do that, your grocery money is riding the stock market. A good year feels fine. Then a bad year arrives. Your account drops 20%, and now you are selling shares at the bottom just to eat. That is the exact move that wrecks retirements, and it happens to people with plenty of savings, purely because they never built the floor. The whole 6-layer idea exists to prevent this one thing. Guaranteed money under the essentials. A buffer beside the portfolio. Flexible money only for the flexible wants. Get that structure right and the market can do whatever it wants. Your survival is simply not on the table anymore. Here is your homework, and it is genuinely just an afternoon. First, pull your Social Security estimate at say.gov and note the number at your full retirement age. That is your base layer. Second, write down any pension or annuity income. Add those two together. That is your guaranteed floor. Third, add up your real essential bills for 1 month, the ones that never stop. Fourth, subtract. If the floor covers the essentials, you are in great shape and the rest is about funding fun. If there is a gap, write that number down, because that is the one job your portfolio has to do. That is it. 4 numbers on the back of an envelope, and the giant, unanswerable question, will my money last, turns into a small, solvable one. You do not need a perfect plan this week. You need the floor and the gap. Let me leave you with 2 retirees who had almost the same pile, and very different retirements. The first one looked at his balance every morning and paid all his bills straight from his investment account. When the market was up, he felt rich. When it dropped, he panicked, cut his spending in fear, and once, in a bad year, sold a big chunk at the bottom. He had plenty of money and none of the peace. The second one built the stack. Her Social Security and a small annuity covered her essentials, so her bills did not care what the market did. Her portfolio funded her travel, and in the one truly ugly market year, she simply skipped a trip and spent from her cash buffer. Same pile. One of them slept fine. The difference was never the amount, it was the structure. So here is the whole thing in one breath. Retirement income is not a pile you pray over, it is a paycheck you build in 6 layers. Social Security and a pension or annuity are your guaranteed floor. Aim that floor at your essential bills. Your portfolio, drawn steadily, fills the gap and funds your wants. A little part-time work bridges the early years. A cash buffer protects you from selling low. And your home and HSA wait quietly in reserve. Build it in that order, and the fear gets small, because you are no longer guessing about a giant number. You are stacking a handful of specific ones, guaranteed on the bottom, flexible on top. Pull your 4 numbers this week. Find your floor, find your gap, and you have already started building the paycheck. Run your numbers. Know you are on track. And I will see you in the next one.